The Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.
Hi Rogers, can I ask you something?
Shoot.
What does corruption mean?
Well, summarily, corruption is abuse of public power for personal gain or for the benefit of a group to which one owes allegiance. For example, when a public office is abused by an official accepting or soliciting a bribe. By the way, private people can be corrupt too, like bribing police officers to escape fines.
Okay. So exactly how does that concern me?
Well, do you pay taxes?
I guess, yeah. What does that have to do with this?
Everything. Because those taxes you pay are supposed to facilitate services you use, like water, electricity, roads construction, medicines in hospitals, name it.
Okay, that is much bigger than I thought. But it can be stopped, right?
Well, yes it can, although it may not be as easy as it sounds. And here is the reason why. Corruption roots are grounded in our country's social, political, economic, bureaucratic traditions and policies.
So, what has kept it going this long? I mean, why don't we stop it?
Well, the main reason why it has been here for so long is because institutions are weak, either as a result of poorly defined ethical standards of public service, weak administrative and financial systems, or ineffective watchdog agencies.
What can we do to stop it?
At a national level, we must focus on strengthening the independence and effectiveness of public institutions that fight corruption. At a personal level, we must commit to never giving a bribe.
I promise I'll never give a bribe.
Well, that's a great decision you have made. Me and you now have to spread this message to all our friends. If we all do our part, corruption will be no more.
This message is brought to you by Alternative Digital. The Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.
Our viewers, I wish to thank you for keeping it Digitalk. My name is Tumuhimbise. We are streaming live on our social media handles. That's Facebook under a name, Alternative Digitalk, YouTube, the same name, and also TikTok. Today, the 16th February 2026, we are blessed again to have the usual gentlemen, or call them panelists. That's Honorable Awich Pollar, a director at NRM Secretariat in charge of external affairs. Next to him is Mr. Joseph Ochieno, a UPC ideologist, but also a gentleman that is looking forward to taking the stewardship of UPC as a party. Unlike our previous Monday, when he wasn't able to have a red on him, gladly we now have some very wonderful red on him. Extreme end is Professor Rogers Barigayomwe. He is a son of a Bush war hero. I do not know whether he's part of the beneficiaries of the gains, but of course he will share with the rest of us on whether he's this talk will never end with his OB, Honorable Awich Pollar. But nonetheless, Professor Rogers Barigayomwe is a political analyst, called him a human rights defender, an academia, to mention but a few. Today is the 16th February 2026, and we, as a country, we are commemorating the, should we call it the murder and assassination, but depending on which grammar each one of you studied. But let's consider the murder of Archbishop Jonan Luwumu, who was killed today, back in the day, by President Amin. There has been so much theories regarding his death, but of course our elders here in present will share what they know of the theories. especially when it comes to what led to his murder. The reason for which we are here tonight is to interrogate, in reference to his day, what is the cardinal role of religious leaders when it comes to fighting for justice. There is a lot, but I will, of course, before we dive deeper into the entire discussion, ask Honorable Awich Pollar two things. One is to say hello to our viewers, give us a summary of how his week has been. Cross to Mr. Joseph Ochieno to also say hello and give us a brief summary about how his week has been. And Professor Rogers, I will give him quite slightly 2 or so extra minutes, because he hasn't been with us for long. I don't know whether he was around or he was in the hiding. And he could also summarize for us, if he wasn't, if he had left, why had he even left? So why has he even come back? Are things now too normal and he feels secure and safe? Anyway, Honorable Awich Pollar, congratulations, if I should say, once again, because I did congratulate you in the presence of your OB. So, and you said he's the gain himself. Begin from there and then proceed.
No, I was saying he's the gain himself because protecting the gains are mainly national in nature. Security, the peace, democracy, infrastructure, health, education, and all that. But why I said Rogers is the gain himself is that over the years, the children were born during the revolution, during after the liberation, or even those born slightly before. So those children that we are protecting and guarding their future, they are the gains we are protecting. So Rogers is the gain himself to be protected. So nobody wants a situation of insecurity where our children die, or where our children run in refugee camps in Sudan or in Kenya, in Tanzania, in Rwanda. If the children that we have get insecurity and they run in exile and suffer in camps, that would be bad. So that's why I was saying Rogers himself is the gain to be protected. We are protecting him.
Him and others.
He's the gain that we are protecting, our children, and the children of Ugandans in totality. So that's what I'm saying. But back to your point, I'm really eager to go to this subject, by the way. So I would pray that I don't waste time, since you say we greet and go to the topic. Okay. So I'm greeting the audience. Greetings to you. You did summarize our week. I had asked yes, greetings to our audience. As usual, I'm always happy to be here. By the way, I'm supposed to be in Umbarara. I cut my visit so that I go tomorrow in the morning, because I have to be here. And that shows how much we sacrifice to be here. Okay. Not that we are here because we have nothing to do. I'm supposed to be in Umbarara. So greeting to our audience and viewers. But the week is briefly, as I always keep saying, no news is good news. There wasn't much happening, except that we took our chairpersons to State House, NRM district chairpersons to State House, and we met with the party chairman. It was a very interactive meeting. It was good. We had a nice time, and the chairman simply opened a synopsis of what he expects to be covered in this coming Kisanja. So that nothing much about the week, and therefore I think I should stop here, because I'm eager that we go through this segment. Okay. We go through this segment and we go to the topic itself. Thank you, sir.
The congressman of the people, like Honorable Awich refers you to, say hello to viewers and briefly give us a summary of how your week has been. We last met on Monday after a very long journey, very exhausted. I'm glad that you now look very strong and energetic than that time. Say hello to viewers, sir.
Yeah, it's just that UPC is naturally a party of health, party of organization, party of conviction, party of values, party of positivity, and part of the future. But otherwise, as Comrade Which says, we get very exhausted. The demands are very huge. And for those of us who do not use the mainstream infrastructure of the party organization, or don't line up at night to get extra energy from other spaces, it can be very demanding. I just returned from the East again. attending funerals, plus so many other commitments. Remember, the other week was a return to school stuff. I've seen some members of my extended family struggling, including today a young student who's come to Kampala and has found accommodation but cannot pay for university accommodation. His father is not really generally able. We can only, in my case, I can only do so much. And that week, what I see, how people struggle, Comrade Rich is talking about the revolution, whatever revolution it is. People, Norman, are struggling in this country. People are struggling for medical care. People are struggling over school fees. I have known friends.
They are USE schools. Why should they struggle when they are USE schools and UPE schools?
I don't know what he studied before he studied law. But
no, I mean, I'm speaking on his
I know,
behalf,
but I don't know how much you know.
Because even you look at how he's looking at you. He knows they are USE. Okay, proceed. It's well.
Yeah, but USE is not free. And the current subsidy that this NRA regime gives to schools per child in O and primary education is not the same as, and I'll encourage my research academic brother here to try and look, please, on to advise us what the figures were, including what would be at the current price, 60s and 80s government subsidy to primary and secondary education. It was far, far too much higher than what these guys give. In any case, those UPE schools, even if it was 7,000 shillings that parents are asked to pay, that is a lot of money for people, including Nagongera. And Nagongera is not a village. I know deep places in Tororo which are poor. And without prejudice, I know deep places in Lango, deep places in Tesu, deep places in Karamoja, deep places in West Nile. In fact, I know some deep places in Bunyoro, where you really go and you see families, and this household will not have had access to 1,000 shillings over the last 3 days, and it's unlikely that they'll get 5,000 shillings by end of the weekend.
I'll cut you short.
Now, if it is those ones, then it does not matter, actually, even if the children go to the schools for nothing. I'm telling you for a reason. I've just been having a quick discussion with, over my profiling about my life with somebody in a certain media house. And the life I went through, I don't know how an average child in Atiak or in Liantonde can go to school without lunch. And even if they had lunch, some parents can't afford these uniform things. Now, that is not about fees. That is also about economic emancipation of parents. Okay. Uganda is the 8th poorest, country in terms of extreme poverty in the whole world. So if your peak starts, even if it's 10% of the population, but unfortunately over 50%, it's not easy.
In short, a summary of your week is that people continue to struggle. And
I continue to feel very sad about it.
Okay.
Yeah.
There we go to have Professor Rogers Barigayomwe to highlight. He says you are one of the gains that ought to be protected in any case.
Lucky man.
So we ought to handle you with care and protect you carefully so that we don't lose the gain in you. Proceed. Proceed, Mr. Gain.
I wish I was protected, and I pray to be protected by my own mentor.
Comrade Awich is a guarantor here.
My mentor, Comrade Awich. But to pick from summary what Joseph is saying, that results came from both P7 and then S4 recently. But it is unfortunate that when you see those results, they correlate sometimes with the performances of government, because how people elect, because these days you see the best performing places and Tungamu municipality, Mbarara, and the worst. So you really see, I always think is the result also related to the national cake, because when you see how the performance of the schools are, it also needs a national conversation as in the educational system, and it should be making the custodians of the education system ashamed, because it is so unfortunate that we have second-class Ugandans who perform very badly, because you find in some municipalities they have over 3,000 first graders or even 10,000, and then there are districts in Uganda, and I wouldn't think those people don't have brains. It's either the education system which is failing, or we need a conversation on that. But quickly back to the gains which we have to protect. It's unfortunately that's why I'm saying sometimes as a country why we need a conversation, it's as if we are going back in circles again. In 1981, Muzei Barigayomwe, my father was the UPM chairman of Kabari, and we seem to be running from against each other. At that time, the government of UPC is the one which was told to be in charge and then manipulated.
They had just won an election.
Yes, they elected
UPC had just won an election.
In 1981,
yes.
81. So, as a young baby of about 2, my parents were running away from UPC, and we went into hiding in Kabari. Unfortunately, now that is from UPC, and a chairman of UPC, of UPM running away from the UPC government. Unfortunately, his son, 40 years after, I ran away from my mentor, Honorable Awich, and the government which my father helped to come into government, because of just fearing to express my views, and I ran away. And unfortunately, I came back, and I'm thank God that I'm safe, but it is scary. Some people are running to exile, they are not returning, and it's unfortunate that we are moving into this, and no one is getting attention. And you know, when I ran away, what I saw is very, in my research, because I would see Ugandans, some who are seeking asylum, and I thought in the government of Ochieno, the UPC government, when they ran away in 85 and 86, most of them were lucky because they ran to UK, US, North America, and even our neighbors. But unfortunately, now those countries are not ready to receive any Ugandan. So I give caution to Honorable Awich and the NRM people that they should lower their arrogancy, and we have a discussion here. Because I don't know where they will run away, because with all due respect, time will come.
Why do you think?
No, because Uganda, I've told you, has been moving in circles. A group has to run away at one time. Or seek asylum, or seek protection. It is a natural cause. I mean, I'm an expert in human rights. Whichever way, if you've been in leadership, sometimes leadership is not easy. So we should have a conversation, and these people should know that we need a conversation here, because there is nowhere to run.
Okay.
And so basically, the time when I was coming back, and I remember calling you, then a colleague was arrested. And that in Sarah Birete, and I'm like, this is so scary. And for them, it seems normal, but some of the things they are doing are abnormal, and we have to have a national conversation, a national dialogue, because before I went away, in summary, as I finished, it was on national TV, NBS. I said, I don't need to. I gave the results out as they would be. I said, Joel Museveni will get 70,
So you
Bobby
are-
Wine will get 25, and the machines cannot work because
So you-
I did my doctorate in electronic government and biometrics. I knew biometric machines cannot work because there was an intention to manipulate. So I knew what was coming, and so it was, and I called it an AI election.
So in our in short, you are our prophet of doom. Anyhow, this is the question for you before you even maybe if we could leave that. How best would you have managed criminality in the event that you are in power, save for what may be speculations? Because now, without any form of prejudice, and of course we don't want to abuse the the court procedures, where government suspects Rogers or Ochieno, what do you expect of them to do? And this is in reference to the arrests of some of the people. You look on.
Yeah, no. Arrests. Actually, if they were to be genuine arrests, they should have been magnified, even starting with the NRM primaries. Because that's where we
Arresting
saw,
themselves.
that's why we saw so much theft and so much thuggery, including national leaders having money. So if to me arrest started at that point,
They should have
then
started with
it
the
would be
NRM.
okay.
Honorable Awich, before we have a few seconds to dive into the topical discussion. He puts strong words that you are about to run away. Some of you.
They have
How to-
nowhere to run away to.
Oh, so you'll be running within. Honorable, do you read any bits of symptoms and or signs that people are on your marks, run? Given what he mentions, that we seem to be on tension as a country.
Not at all. Of course, as I told you, I'm very eager to dive into Jonan Luwumu, but
Just a few seconds,
I will answer that. I think what Rogers is saying is that, considering the fact that his father was running from UPC, and that the
Not
government,
UPC though.
and that the party that he supported later on went to the bush and got to power, and him, the son of his father, is running away from them. He now thinks that even NRM will have to run away at some time. So that is the circle.
You don't see any running?
I don't think so, because when President Museveni said this is a fundamental change, he meant it. That was given a stop. And why I'm saying I don't think I'm running away is because I've repeatedly said that our ability to be in power is not because we have guns and helicopters and tanks. Ability to be in power is because we are endeared to the people. We are doing what the people want. We have a manifesto that we implement and people vote for us. So they'll continue to vote as long as we endear them. But also is that the infrastructural system in terms of the state institutions is strong enough to safeguard that. Take for example, if in the unfortunate event that Bobby Wine had secured 50+1, because that is the
Wait, why do you call it an unfortunate event?
for me as a party, because I wanted to win. So if, for
So to
example,
you, that is the
Bobby
worst
Wine-
case scenario.
If, for example, Bobby Wine had secured 50+1, the entire system, we will still have to use the infrastructural system in place. The public service, the police, the courts, the army. It is the same army that is supposed to do him a parade. It is the same police that will do. So even if somebody wanted to do harassment, it would take him maybe 10 years.
Is that practical with
To-
the
to
CDF
overcome.
who is literally seeing
Yeah, this is what
harassing?
I'm saying. So there are some people who were recklessly saying, the day Bobby Wine will be declared a winner, you will run. I said, how? Because the infrastructure still is the same. In fact, I warned them that if Bobby Wine is declared a winner, for Bobby Wine to assume that leadership, you, his supporters, pray that you don't cause chaos. Because should you cause chaos, you legitimize the army to come in and say there's chaos in the country. I believe that if Bobi Wine had won, it is him who should have called his supporters. Please keep quiet. Don't start burning houses. Don't start killing people. Because if you do that, it is what the army will say, there's anarchy, let us take over. So, for the two reasons, that one, we are capable of staying in power, not because of the guns and the tanks and the helicopter, but because of meeting the people's needs. But two, that the national infrastructural system, institutions, including the laws in place, it will take somebody a long time to overhaul it. Possibly if Rogers will talk of the cycles of running, it would be after 10 years. And that would be already 2 elections, 2 more elections, if that was to come. But for now, for those who thought that a mere declaration of results people will run, that would actually be playing in the wrong hand.
He ran it before he
was
voting.
Why?
Because you would justify. I said already
he ran
Congress.
He ran before even elections.
Yes,
the threats here.
I'm saying in the Congress that imagine in an ideal situation that Biabakama had declared Bobi Wine the winner. And then the supporters start cutting cows, cutting matoke of people
what makes
they
you,
suspect.
But
why would they?
Because that is what was coming from them.
But the president,
and that is why I'm answering this,
sure.
colleague. I'm answering the fear that the NRM would go in exile. So I'm trying to explain. So I'm trying to explain to you circumstance that would make NRM go in exile. When already result is declared, cows are being cut, matoka are being cut, vehicles are being burned, houses are being burned. And that's why I'm saying it would be unwise for Bobi Wine. It would actually be him to stop peace people not to. Because that would be playing in the wrong hands. Because you would be legitimizing the army to say, oh,
Honorable Awich, I think for some reason we need your guidance as an opinion leader in this discussion and this country to say, and just like the rest, I will seek also the opinion. If the people you mentioned have not cut anyone's plans upon losing in courts with what they don't think, they are not contented with the loss, why would they cut people's property or destroy people's property upon winning?
It is from their mouth. It is them who were saying. Was it me saying? It is them who were saying.
I've been discussing rumors like you have always said.
Our family, for example, our family, for example, was threatened because our family is non-NRM. They said you people of which wait when the result is declared. It is from them. It is from their mouth. So, you are saying as if it is from me.
So they fail to cause havoc after losing, but they would cause havoc after winning.
Yes. Because in their short thinking, they said a mere declaration was enough to give them power. That's what I'm saying. And that's what I'm saying. It would be a wrong move for them. For them, they thought a mere declaration was enough.
Okay, so in short, you don't see any of you running.
Not at all.
NRM is here to stay.
The institutional framework, including the laws, are there. The institutional
but the laws, it's just for some reason cancelled.
Including the police, the military.
Cancel.
It would take you 10 years. The only thing that could see that instantly is if you did the NRM way, by taking over power, by dismantling the state machinery.
That I know you know, as a matter of fact, that law is on paper. And
leave law, okay,
put
the other
your NRA abused it after taking power and had legal notice number 1.
That's what I'm saying, it will take time.
Okay, our viewers, we are with this interesting panel with Honorable Awich Pollar, a very interesting gentleman, and another interesting gentleman from UPC. Much as at some point, you cannot avoid the friction between Professor Barigayomwe when he mentions UPC. you will see Mr. Joseph Ochieno giving him that sharp eye. Nonetheless, we go back into now our topic of discussion. 16th February 1977 is the day that the Archbishop Jonan Luwumu was murdered. Though some also theories say he had been murdered the previous night or some hours, and the news to the world was literally broken to all. Okay, I can't say to all of us, to all of them. Yeah, I think not to Rogers as well. To these two, that's when the news was broken to them. I was not born yet. That had been murdered. There are so many reasons for which people attribute to his murder. We want to mention that it is believed and we read that he was against injustices. And we shall highlight, as we speak today, one of our colleagues out there, Counsel Kakuru Tumuhimbise was arrested at Honorable Chagulanyi's home, and some other lawyers. They had gone there to literally give some bit of legal counsel to either the family or otherwise. As we speak, I also don't want to say for a matter of fact, but most likely Honorable Awich may, if he deems it important, he may, on behalf of the NRM, account for the whereabouts of Honorable Robert Chagulanyi Sentamu, whom all of us can't ascertain about his whereabouts. I give such highlights to bring out a picture of what literally Archbishop Luwumu was fighting for. But then we ask, at simply 55 years when he passed on, very good years later, we want to interrogate the role of religious leaders in the fight for justice. I could also put it on to Honorable Awich before he also gives us his point of view. Did Amin, in your view, kill an archbishop, a religious leader, or a rebel? Because there are some other theorists who say, no, look, this gentleman had guns. This gentleman was fighting me. So literally, he didn't kill an archbishop. He killed a rebel. It will also come back to some of some renowned people, critics, Muslim clerics who have died. Do we also say that their killings or murders are as a result of speaking truth to power? But begin from there.
And they claim that
you're taking my powers.
He had assistance from foreign countries.
Okay. Counsel, Honorable, Director, you have so many titles. Pick one of them and you equitably and do us justice.
Well, you ask so many things, you threw so many things in the basket. I just hope I will thematically drive through the topic. But I just like to say, for the purpose of our viewers, because as we discuss, we also keep learning, and viewers should keep learning.
Yeah.
So we may have to do some revision. Just to move along that, who is Jonan Luwumu? Jonan Luwumu was then the Archbishop of what was then called Uganda, Rwanda, Boga Zaire. Up to now, by the way, I haven't known what is a Boga Zaire. But it was saying he was the Archbishop of the Anglican Church of Uganda, Rwanda, and Boga Zaire. So, meaning therefore that he was that Archbishop who would oversee or rule over Anglican, even outside Uganda. Eastern Congo, I think, and Rwanda. And so he was a very big man. And he comes from from Kitgum, Isanacholi, from a place called Muchweni. They come from the same village with Olaro Tunu, for avoidance of doubt. Their county is called Chua, the county of Titukelo also. So that county has produced many big brains, or many big people. So that was Jonan Luwumu. And what is his day? This day is a day that is passed by an act of parliament. It is an act of parliament which passed it to make it a public holiday. And basically, normally, public holiday is given importance so that people can meditate, people can ponder, people can think over a subject matter. And that is why it's honored by an act of parliament to make this a public holiday. So this public holiday we have is enjoyed by that. And why? Why did Parliament, in their wisdom, decide to make this a public holiday? In the wisdom of Parliament, it was seen like the action that is deemed to have been done by Amin. Deemed because Amin argues he didn't do it. But I think various boards of inquiry, commissions of inquiry, including the Human Rights Commission, seems to have a conclusion that Amin murdered him. And part of the reasons then was that Amin admits that Luwumu was arrested, although it doesn't clearly state between the killing and the arrest.
After the arrest,
He claims, I think it was a motor accident
or
something, but there are gunshots gun wounds. So, therefore, the killing is deemed to have been wrong, and therefore, that is why it is given a Heroes' Day by declaring a public holiday by Parliament. Now, about his fighting for injustice, again, it's double-edged sword. Because if you say Luwumu was fighting for injustice, then you may have to scope to what extent. Otherwise, if you overstretch it, then you will also justify a mean suspicion of his activities. But if you say he was fighting injustice in his scope as a religious leader or not taking arms, then he was justified. Because we know that religious leaders since time immemorial in the Old Testament, they played the role of strong caution, strong advice. If you remember the prophets in the past, the prophets used to tell the king that this is wrong, don't do this. The prophets would do it. But I must add that sometimes it would come at a fee, at a cost, especially if the people around the king are overzealous. And I've always warned my cadres in NRM not to be overzealous. For example, when Prophet John the Baptist told the king that he had taken over somebody's wife, the wife he had taken over had produced a baby, a girl with the king. And she danced well in a birthday. And the king asked the girl, what can I do for you? And the girl ran to the mother and said, Daddy has asked me that I should ask for anything I want. And the mother thought this was now the best time to get John the Baptist. This Luwumu now then. He said, now I want Luwumu dead. So the mother told the girl, go and ask the head of John the Baptist. Say, Daddy, give me on a tray. So the king had no option than to cut the head of John the Baptist and give it to the kid because the kid had asked. And therefore, if you reduce the role of religious leaders to that level which historically in the Bible was there, that the prophets would tell the right thing to the king without fear or favor. And by the way, in the case of Israel, you know why the prophet were even honest? Because the prophet would know that should the king do wrong today, God will punish Israel. So the king would be saying, hey, come on, before God punishes us, God will punish all of us. Do the right thing. So, historically, this is what would happen. So, the thinking is that it is true Janani was outspoken on injustices. Okay? He was outspoken, he would tell Amin, because by then, there was a lot of arrest and killing. It was not uncommon to find dead bodies in this forest now, which is investment area, Namamve was forest, dead bodies were dumped there on River Nile and Lake Victoria. Yes, people would be dumped. So again and again, Luwumu would speak. Now, if this speaking is the fight for justice that we are talking about, then it is justified. But if we push this fight for justice to arms and all that, then we justify Amin to the extent that he suspected him to be for treason activities. But still, it would not amount in a normal justice system. It wouldn't amount to extrajudicial killing. Still, he had all the time to arrest Luwumu, bring him to court, and charge him and try him. I also like to say that many, apart from the Bible cases, many times religious leaders have either supported injustice
or fought injustice.
For example, a case study in the apartheid regime in South Africa. Yeah. There were even bishops who were already bringing philosophies and theological justification to say, you know, it is God who made black and white, and God said we are not equal, and that is why they are black, these ones are white, so we should submit to them. And they would even quote Bible verses. But at the same time, so those are religious leaders who actually support injustice. Now, you also have religious leaders who don't, like Bishop Tutu.
Yeah.
Bishop Tutu would stand on his ground and say, no, this theology, this theory of yours, of apartheid, of equal racial discrimination cannot stand. It is wrong. Leave it. And the killing and the arrest and the detention and the whatever you're doing is bad. So we have also had in history that situation where religious leaders do that. So you have religious leaders who stand with government, and you have religious leaders who stand for the people at times of injustice. So we have that. Now, this is why we are saying now that Luwumu, by public pronouncement, by public preaching, it was against injustice, especially at a time when there was killing and arrest and all that. But to the extent that Amin should have said he owned guns, we don't know. But also to that extent, we would still say, if he had guns anyway, was the best place to do to kill him extrajudiciously. Now, in my conclusion, if you have a pro-people government like NRM, then the religious leaders would be right to support such a government. And therefore, I think religious leaders would concur in supporting a government that supports the people, a government that respects the rights of people. And I pray that that should be the situation that NRM goes, so that we speak the same language with the religious leaders. But still, I wouldn't take offense if religious leaders still keep sounding a warning to us. Because as humans, and with the multiplicity of cadres, you can't trust everybody in their competency. There are some cadres who are overzealous. Yeah. And therefore, I still want to say religious leaders should stand and maintain their ground the way Luwumu did it.
Okay, thank you, Honorable Awich. I will read this for Mr. Joseph Ochieno, and it's going to help us. God, I don't know whether my producer can please give it to me, the statement, some brief statement by the President. Mr. Awich and Professor Rogers, pay attention onto what I'm going to read. President Kaguta Museveni, while at, you said it's Muchwini. So that's the highlight. We are here to shame the devil who operated through people like Amin. Amin made many mistakes. First of all, imposed himself as our leader. At that time, I was in the president's office serving as a research assistant. Let's begin from there, Honorable Mr. Joseph Ochieno, because that's a highlight of what the gentleman has spoken while up there. And the question becomes, which even rather suits Honorable Awich as we come back later alone. I'll bring it back to you, Honorable Awich. Yeah. For how long will the President refer to Amin as devil? But that is now for our second hour as return. But in reference to that statement, Mr. Joseph Ochieno, what do you make of that statement?
That statement ought to have Mr. Museveni's picture, and it is framed, you know, and in every house we have it. Because it's a perfect manifestation of hypocrisy from Mr. Museveni.
What do you mean hypocrisy?
That said, I just want to put a quick disclaimer on the young professor here. On the question of 1981, I don't know the circumstance, but...
Are you highlighting that he imposed himself?
No, I have to deal with this. I've got to deal with this. 1981... UPC was in government, but the government was not UPC. It was the national government. All the security services, all the infrastructure, all the civil servants was government. And you can see Mr. Museveni, 10 years earlier, had been in Dr. Bote's office. I'm glad Mr. Museveni can now
he mentions it. He was a researcher in
his office. But that's 10 years later, in 1981, UPC had just won free, fair, open, multi-party elections. Yes? Museveni, after 6 weeks, decided to go to the push to cause terror here in Luwero. I actually sympathize with many of Museveni supporters and the overzealous UPM people who mobilize arms and other things to support Museveni in the bush. Rogers here is a direct victim of that, and that's why we're saying He's saying we need to talk. We've gone through round and round. We didn't want to reach a situation in which the grass suffers. Bidandi Sali, who was the Secretary General of UPM, apparently was picked by the state, you know, because once Museveni went to the bush, it's very difficult as a government, the kind of arguments Comrade is trying to make, to believe that the Secretary General of that political stroke military organization is not in the know of what's going on.
Sure.
So Bidandi was picked and detained and for querying whether or not he knew. Turns out, as I understand it, Bidandi genuinely knew Museveni was going, but he wasn't a party because they had declined to go. Now, the security services did the operations under Mr. Mwanga's office. Milton Obote was not involved. This, I'm giving you guys important information. So, somebody who's also still alive arranges for Bidandi's wife to go and meet Milton Obote. You know, so an appointment was made the day before, and we're still discussing Jonan Luwumu and the future of our country. Apparently, Obote rang Mwanga and told him, I hope your producer was also listening because it's important, that Bidandi Sali's wife is coming to see me tomorrow. What should I tell her? That's very important from Milton Obote's perspective. Obviously, granted, unlike these days where they tell official opposition leaders, we don't know where you are, things, of course, they said that, well, he's a suspect under interrogation. Something along those lines. Bidandi was obviously eventually released and things like that. So people like Roger's dad, who were UPM leaders, district leaders, in places like Kigezi, which we now know was a conduit to links with the rebels that Museveni had prepared and some other rebels, including in Rwanda and Congo. You know, it was very difficult for the state, but completely unacceptable for Rogers to go through those experiences. That's why we are saying that after 40 years, we should not be going through what Besigye is going through. We should not be going through what Kyagulanyi is going through. But then that having been said, you can't compare the UPC government, which was elected democratically, and within 6 weeks, this bandit did not go to the court, but they went to the bush to cause terror. That is official. Fast forward to today, this bunch have been around for the last 40 years. Not a single iota. There is my OB Rugunda in Kigezi. There is Mama Mbabazi. Some of them are very arrogant people. Not Rugunda. Fantastic guys. None of those guys have proven that, look, you know, our votes were rigged in ABC. In Kigezi. Dr. Kwasiwe, you know, who was our health minister, is down there. He's retired free in Kigezi. Telling you, Philemon Mateke has gone on to support NRA gains in many other ways. So these guys are there. To tell you the truth, they were neat. Jonan Luwumu, very sad.
In 2 minutes.
This day, last year, I was in Muchini. It's a big event, by the way. I think it's something that the media ought to do better in terms of coverage. So beyond actually what Comrade Awich says in terms of this being a national day, I actually don't think we cover it well. Like I was speaking to somebody close to me in family and they were not even sure today is a public holiday and what is. So I think we are sort of wasting it in terms of the messaging, linked to what Roger is saying and linked to part of the balance that the contradiction that Comrade was trying to talk about was Luwumu, a rebel or not a rebel. All these are things that we need to be able to discuss, both in academia and otherwise, and our societies as we try to heal together and try and find a way out. So I was at Muchini last year, and the other thing is that unfortunately, the surviving younger brother, is it younger or the brother of Jonan Luwumu actually passed a few months ago. And I'm really sorry that I was not able to attend because I really wanted to do so. Jonan Luwumu was one of a kind. Go through this guy's background and go through some of the manner in which they were courageously able to navigate their lives with Idi Amin, around the brutality of Idi Amin, but sticking to their Bible, speaking to God, but also seeking to speak truth to power. It was extraordinary. Janani, as Comrade Awich says, you link him to Desmond Tutu, through whose own campaigns around apartheid I was lucky to associate. To link him to the Reverend Dr. Alan Bozak, of the United Reformed Church of South Africa. fantastic religious leaders campaigning against apartheid and the liberation struggle in Southern Africa. And these guys schemed through. And these guys motivated people, not in Southern Africa only, but across the globe, like people like us, and some of us up to and including our exile places in Europe. Some of these guys, like Desmond Tutu, was, for me, a very difficult one. Because when Tutu was going through the process of discussion around truth and reconciliation, I nearly, I'm saying today, by the way, I nearly hated him. Because I thought he was conflicted, you know, on this truth and reconciliation thing. And particularly the way, and that I'll say, the way they handled Winnie Benjamin, you know, I'm a leftist.
Winnie Mandela.
Yeah,
everyone would think he was meant Mandela's.
Very, very interesting. I thought they were rather too harsh on the other extremes. But if you go into the details and depth of this people,
that's what he ought to have done.
These guys were genuinely very selfless. Yeah. And these guys were trying to navigate spiritual, political, cultural, and historical injustices, but basically trying to seek to liberate
South
a people's... Actually, not South Africa, actually globally, the region, South Africa, the injustices around the African personality, meaning the black people from slavery to colonialism to new colonialism, things like that, that we still understudy them. I'm talking about him versus the Jananis. What am I saying? Jonan Luwumu, Desmond Tutu, my own late Archbishop Jonan Luwumu, who was my neighbor as the bishop at the time, Bishop Okoth narrowly escaped, you know, in the 70s against Idi Amin, and the bit of story, some of them will come out of my memoirs, by the way. But what is interesting about these people is that the point Comrade Awich raised, were these people opposed to Idi Amin? You know, guys, were these people opposed to Idi Amin? They were religious people in charge of flocks, you know? And so I think there is no need to justify whether or not they liked Amin. They did not need to like Amin, and they did not need to hate him. But they're basically religious leaders across the board. The tricky one, in terms of whether or not Luwumu knew what was happening with the liberation forces, and these are general liberation, not NRL. NRL is not liberation. Liberation forces in Tanzania, that included the Museveni's Okaid, NTZ, you know, Tanzania. Were they involved or not? It's a very tricky one, and it's a moral conversation that we can come back onto. But generally, that these people stood those positions, and Luwumu gets killed plus many of these people. When I found myself in exile in UK, there's a Reverend Townsend in Archway who's really supported people from northern communities. And one of the things that they said, Comrade Awich, these Bazungu guys were extremely sad that their regime, their government, with the Gaddafi, supported Museveni's war in Luwero, supported Museveni. And they said, oh, we thought Museveni was a good guy. And all of a sudden, within months, we had hundreds of Ugandans in exile. And we had northern Uganda at war, particularly Choliland, with the concentration camps. That is way before even Joseph Kony. Reverend Townsend, you know, is now late, referring to Luwumu, with whom he knew and worked very closely, was saying that, look, after going through Idi Amin, after going through Jonan Luwumu, people sacrificing their lives, why should somebody come in the fundamental change post what you're raising it, and then go ahead and repeat the same mistakes? That, unfortunately, is my problem. But in 30 seconds, religious leaders today, I have real issues. I have real issues, whether it's the envelope or your ability or inability to speak out. The injustices that are happening, including around these elections, are far too many. That if, for me, I nearly went to the seminary. If I had gone to the seminary, there is a high possibility that in the last 10, 15 years, I would have denied somebody communion when they're coming to me. Said, no, what I saw and what I know about you, I'm not giving to you.
I have, we have kindly used, I want us to give you like 40 seconds so that we can cross to a short break. Do you have, in specifics, do you have like 2 or so names of some religious leaders in our country as of now that you think are close to Luwumu of 70s?
I don't know.
Okay.
I honestly don't know, but
you have Bishop Ondama. Isn't he?
Oh, you're talking about serving?
Yeah.
Oh, sure. No, Bishop Ondama and
I have read about him. I don't
Bishop
know
Ondama and Bishop Ochola. Ironically, okay. Coincidentally. However, the serving Anglican Archbishop, and you know, recently in one of the submission is in church. I was quite impressed and actually said on his church television. But in terms of towards Luwumu,
Someone is closer to him?
no, those two retired religious, and remember, one is Catholic, one Protestant.
Yeah.
These guys have done fantastic work in trying to bring us together. Yes.
Our viewers, kindly give us a minute or even half a minute. We come back. When we come back, we shall definitely begin with Professor Rogers Barigayomwe. But now also I will reread that statement from the president. Then we'll come back to Honorable Awich. You know, he's now being battled by two gentlemen, and he has to defend his stand without fear or favor and nothing but the truth. Okay, gentlemen and ladies viewing us, we're coming back shortly. Keep it TikTok.
The Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.
Hi, Rogers. Can I ask you something?
Shoot.
What does corruption mean?
Well, summarily, corruption is abuse of public power for personal gain or for the benefit of a group to which one owes allegiance. For example, when a public office is abused by an official accepting or soliciting a bribe. By the way, private people can be corrupt too, like bribing police officers to escape fines.
Okay. So exactly how does that concern me?
Well, do you pay taxes?
I guess, yeah. What does that have to do with this?
Everything. Because those taxes you pay are supposed to facilitate services you use, like water, electricity, roads construction, medicines in hospitals, name it.
Okay, that is much bigger than I thought. But it can be stopped, right?
Well, yes, it can, although it may not be as easy as it sounds. And here is the reason why. Corruption roots are grounded in our country's social, political, economic, bureaucratic traditions and policies.
So, what has kept it going this long? I mean, why don't we stop it?
Well, the main reason why it has been here for so long is because institutions are weak, either as a result of poorly defined ethical standards of public service, weak administrative and financial systems, or ineffective watchdog agencies.
What can we do to stop it?
At a national level, we must focus on strengthening the independence and effectiveness of public institutions that fight corruption. At a personal level, we must commit to never giving a bribe.
I promise I'll never give a bribe.
Well, that's a great decision you have made. Me and you now have to spread this message to all our friends. If we all do our part, corruption will be no more.
This message is brought to you by Alternative Digital.
Hey Teddy, have you noticed how little attention science and health issues get in the media?
Totally, Edgar, yet science information is very important.
Yeah, for sure. That's why the Health Journalists Network is here.
How can they help?
They are a group of journalists dedicated to advancing public understanding of healthcare issues through impactful reporting on health and science.
Oh, really?
Yes, they meet up every month with scientists and researchers, policymakers, and activists at the science media cafes. They then relay what they discuss to the public.
Does that benefit us?
Oh yes, very much so. This helps with health and science literacy for a healthy Ugandan society.
Okay. I love getting informed about science and health issues. Health information makes all the difference between life and death. I'll look them up and engage them.
That's great. They are based all over the country.
Oh, okay. That's interesting, and they should be making real impact.
They are empowering health communities through journalism. Journalists can save lives just like doctors.
The Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.
From the reliable sources, I gather that Council Tumuhimbise has been given a police bond. had been, I think, on his, I can't call it a charge sheet because it hadn't reached the state, that had been arrested over public nuisance. Away from that, of course, he had gone alongside Council Aaron Chiza, to Mosime Kato, and others to Honorable Chagulanyi's home to ascertain what exactly is happening at his place. And by morning hours, I think 2 or so of them had been arrested and dropped to Kasangati police station. Gladly, he's been given a bond. But away from that, there are some highlights, but of course, let me begin with Professor Rogers Barigayomwe. And kindly, our producer, you could help me give us that summary of the president's speech in Gulu so that he can refer to it and he gives us what he thinks of it. Then I'll come back to Honorable Awich Pollar with the specific questions in regards to the submissions of the 2 gentlemen. To reread the highlight, and of course it's a courtesy screenshot from NBS, our sister rather media house, if I should say. And they quote the president as saying, "We are here to shame the devil who operated through people like Idi Amin. Amin made mistakes. First of all, he imposed himself as our leader. At that time, I was in the president's office serving as a research assistant." Professor, you are even beyond a research assistant. Okay, tell us, what do you have to say?
Put it on again.
Production, please. I know Honorable Awich doesn't want it to be put again, but it's okay.
Me, I want it to be.
Okay, Honorable Awich also wants it to be there.
In this same program,
yes.
remember, sometime I told you, Revelation 19:19. I told you the devil operates, yes, in leaders. So I only just pray. And that's why I ask President Museveni to in future reflect, because another president could use the same words. We are here to shame the devil who operated through dash and made many mistakes. First of all, he imposed himself as our leader. At that time,
I wasn't yet born.
I was a professor in Uganda. So, really, I told you this, that the devil operates through leaders. And in that Revelation 19:19, it was in this studio, and you good enough the president used. He says that, it says in Revelation 19:19, that the political leaders, together with the religious leaders, disappoint the country. We saw it in campaigns, where religious leaders, and I'm even disappointed because most of them were some Pentecostal leaders. And some, I give credit to the mainstream, I think they noticed that the direction was getting wrong. They withdrew a bit. But some of these people should not even go to celebrate. It's a mockery to go to celebrate Mass of Jonan Luwumu. They would have been tear gas today, because some of them are not worthy to talk about Jonan Luwumu when they cannot walk, at least try to walk in his shoes. The religious leaders have let this country down. They have betrayed, they have gone with handouts, and one time we'll have this conversation with them in heaven, because they are the biggest betrayer. Because they would act as arbiters, referees. But they've gone with handouts, and they've forgotten the role, my mentor, which talks about of rebuking government leaders. They know what happened. They know what took place. They know the theft. Let them come call the president and speak in, if they are those prophets we are talking about. Let them not just go to celebrate and then betray. We've had religious leaders, yes. Father Gaetano. We've had Ondama, you're talking about, we give them credit. Remember one time we had Bishop Nyengeye. But and some other few, including, I wouldn't say credit because controversial, we've had fathers even who have been in and out, but what we are talking about is these religious leaders who are being talked about in Revelation 19, who are standing with the oppressors. In the same president's speech, who says they come like the devil, they stand with the devil to punish, and they impose themselves on us. And they have no kind word. When they are in State House, they are just asking for handouts, and they are not playing their role. Someone with 71+%, how could he have imposed himself onto you? No, you haven't said for my safety. But no, I'm not even talking about the percentage. I'm talking about the acts which they see on a daily basis, and they don't condemn. When you see them doing mass, when the leaders, and I'm not saying only the President Museveni, but when these people like the honorables, the speakers, they are there just taking their money, stealing their money. And they are not telling them what God has for them. And in any case, they are not helping the country, and they are not helping the leadership, because these people, when they are on the run, like we are saying, no, I don't know what the religious leaders will be saying. So we are disappointed by the religious leaders. I would want them to take caution from Honorable Awich, to be neutral, to say it as it is, because the Bible says we are the salt. If now the salt loses the taste, now where do we run? Because we cannot run to iPod, we cannot run as much as possible. Even as people are disheartened, as people are desperate, they still go to church, then they still send their children for education. So as the religious leaders and academia, we are sort of supposed to be neutral, because what they are saying actually is that even us in academia here, Major Awich, what he's saying is that even us in academia, we should now, they are even amending the syllabus so that the truth does not come up. And it should be in the statements like the president has just, you get it. But what should we teach? The moral decay in this period. Corruption is normalized. And what are the religious leaders? What do they have to say? If the justice system, because remember the justice system has been corrupt, no one believes in those judges or chief justices they are appointing. So people's solace is still now in the religious leaders. And they've relegated their role. They've even eaten, like Esto, they've given away their birthright for just handouts and money, and God is going to judge them. Actually, the hottest fire is for the religious leaders. Why? Because, I mean, the Bible is clear. It says, he who is given much, much is let them expect a lot of fire.
But the religious leaders don't have as much as the NRM gainers.
No, they've been given the right to be fair. Okay. Because with the fairness, we can no longer find it in the courts of or the courts, but we can find them in the churches and let them play their role. God is giving the president in his own statement is giving him a second chance. Let him reflect that another leader who comes will never say those same words that the devil was with him. Then the religious leaders also, God is giving you a second chance, that you should let it be not written that the devil was with you, religious leaders. Okay. Thank you, Professor Barigayomwe. We are back to Honorable Awich Pollar, who with all the confidence is here to rebut. But I want to use your statement, Honorable Awich Pollar. You mentioned earlier that religious leaders ought to do what you termed as strong caution, as in strong caution. Do you see it in our country as of now that there are religious leaders that are strongly cautioning you as a sitting government
about some of the injustices, and you have welcomed the caution, welcomed the caution in good faith and moved forward and or acted towards their advice. Because the last time I remember, the president has always said,
yes. First, let me start with the statement that was put on the screen.
Can our producer bring it back? You okay?
Yes.
Okay. Bring it, roll it back. Let's have this read by the senior NRM.
Now, the first paragraph, which says that the devil operated through a mean, is very correct. Because a mean's actions were very extrajudicial. I don't even know up to now where the country, not the military, because it was not what you call service offenses. I know we had our conduct in NRA, which were service offenses, to guard us in the army, which would make us put our soldiers to firing squad, but not civilian. If a civilian that did something, he would go to the ordinary civilian court. But our firing squad was for the military. Now, Amin's firing squad was for the ordinary civilian. We know the list of people he killed. Then the extrajudicial, which were killed quietly. So the whole world condemned it. And above all, he lacked the support, and that is why his government collapsed. Because as I keep saying, if Amin had the support of the people, not even Tanzania would overthrow it. Not even the army of Tanzania with combined exilees from Uganda. So it is a consensus and agreed position, even the Congress, that Amin, devil operated through him. Now, paragraph 2.
Is that true, Mr. Awich? Sorry, Amin operated under a devil? Okay.
No, the devil operated through under Amin. And there is another very important devil. Yes. Actually, I was trying to read that, but I don't think Mr. Museveni referred to it.
I wish you just answered yes, so that I continue with my
No, I'm helping with that. No, comrade, if you don't mind, because you're making a very important point, because the analysis itself is actually generally quite good from that perspective, because people would not have seen from that. There is another element, and that is the other devil that overthrew the government was imperialists, Anglo-Americans, Anglo-Americans actually used Amin, and told Amin, because Amin did not plan to overthrow, and since we're having this discussion, is very important. Amin did not plan to overthrow the government. He was encouraged to overthrow the government. Devil. Yes. So,
But also in the specific case of killing Luwumu, the devil used him. Leave alone the overthrow. So it was agreed that Amin's government was unpopular, and is Satan using him. Now, paragraph 2.
Let's have the screenshot.
Let's have paragraph 2.
The paragraph
I think paragraph 2 is what Rogers would have had issues with. Paragraph 2 that he imposed himself. Because it is true that the first government of Museveni, legal notice number 1 of 1986, which racial power from the government of Lutwa to the Museveni was through a force of arms.
Imposed themselves.
Yes, and that is what maybe to that extent that Rogers would say it, he imposed himself, but not the subsequent. Now, to that, the justification has been, President Museveni has explained that we told the government then that we should negotiate, we should talk. Government refused. And therefore, he had no option than to take arms, revolutionary arms. Now, to show that he did not impose himself was the popularity of the fighting. It is a well-known fact that NRA was enjoyed popular civilian support, and that is why it was
in Uganda.
And if it didn't have that support, again I repeat, they would not have overthrown, they wouldn't have captured, or we wouldn't have captured power if NRA didn't have the support. So to the extent that legal notice number 1 was acquired not through a vote, you can say
he imposed
himself. But the justification for that imposition is there. The popularity of the struggle and the no option after that. So paragraph 1, it's okay. Paragraph 2 is debatable, but it is explainable.
I like the lawyer in him.
Paragraph 2 is that legal notice number 1. But the subsequent elections now is not in doubt, that is a popular election. So the only issue that you would have is legal notice number 1 of 1986.
Which also has a justification.
Now, I think I've said that.
Okay.
Now,
the strong question.
The question now
strong
is,
question.
Your question is whether, in my view,
I
see religious leaders
who give you strong question.
I have seen religious leaders talking. I think they have been talking. And maybe to the extent of not biting also depends on the commissions of injustice by the government. Because it is not just automatic that religious leaders should be seen to be biting. If the government in power is not openly injustice, then the religious leaders would also not be seen to be biting. But I've seen religious leaders talk about corruption very strongly in churches. I have heard in Tagali saying that NRM should apologize. And later, the MP was called who? The yellow MP.
Which one?
Abiriga.
Abiriga,
Abiriga even had issues to say, why would Ntagali said NRM should apologize? It should be Ntagali to apologize. Now, Abiriga said that. And you know, a few moments later, when Ntagali got into his own problem, thanks to the software technology, somebody reproduced Abiriga when he was long gone, saying, well, honestly, why would Ntagali said we should apologize? It should be him to apologize. And this was at the right time. And if Abiriga was alive, maybe somebody would say he's saying it now. But the man had long gone. So we have had voices. We have had voices condemning.
How far have you acted towards such voices?
It has been hard. Due attention has been given to it. Due weight has been given to their voices. Like the others that he has talked about, Gaetano and others. So I have had voices from religious leaders, daily, especially of corruption, even their arrest. Many religious leaders have said, please, if you have to arrest, take them to court. Many religious leaders have talked. They have said it. And I find it okay if they talk, if they see it in their wisdom. In any case, they are cautioning. Remember, I had already said that in the Israel case, the prophets would say this in all good faith. Because the prophets knew that should Israel, the king, do something wrong, God would punish the entire Israel. And in one of the punishment by then is that another power would come and attack Israel and cause harm, because God would be punishing Israel. Therefore, to be specific to your question, I've had religious leaders talk. Ntagali, Father Gaetano, all religious leaders have been talking about corruption. All religious leaders have been sounding warning about arrest. And it is us now to give due weight to their claims. If their claims is unfounded, you can also discount to say, no, you are talking this, it is unfounded. And to show you that religious leaders have been talking, even you could hear voices from government sometimes because of the squeezing where government comes and says, you know, you should separate roles, your role is this, your role should not be this. That in itself shows that religious leaders have been talking. Because if they were not talking, why would there be that discomfort and leading to saying separate the roles? So, to be specific to your question, religious leaders have been talking, and I strongly believe that their views should be given due weight and assessed accordingly. Thank you,
Honorable Awich. In a few seconds, I'm calling for some brief clip, and I know the three of you at least have some bit of understanding of the Luganda. But before I call it, there is a rumor, and which may, to some people, may literally be interpreted as a fact, that there is some bit of a conflict between the Catholic Church and the NRM government. Have you heard of such a rumor? And in most of your national events as of late, is a way they kind of distance themselves. Is it because they fall into the other docket of those who strongly caution you? Honorable Awich?
I'm not aware.
Okay. Our producer, please give me that clip of Sheikh at some function, and I'll ask my panelists here to keenly listening, and then we
You'll
shall
translate
Yeah,
it.
sure, yeah, I will definitely, sir. And then that will also guide us onto our next closing questions, please.
akalulu mujja kufuna ezekiro batubye bababbawa nga temulina bantu. Omusajja akulembedde emyaka ano oyinza omwepankirako ate tagezesa President Museveni tagezesa akalulu waggwayo akanoonya teyeebaka naye andibadde agamba nti akaneebake naye teyeebaka anoonya kalulu. Abantu abafunye abagenda omuwa Electoral Commission yaffe amagye gaffe emundu ffe tuzirina esente ffe tuzirina ngaddawo nti simanyi ove from nowhere nti otwala buyinza otye tusobola wallahi tusobola sheekh kati mwe abavubuka naddala abasiraamu tebabalimba simanyi nti akalulu kalonde okakuume onookabala nga okubala temukwongerako kalonde kakuume kalonde kakuume ekakuume okalekaawo ffe tukatwale tukole ki? Ndinda oli aveeyo abeera omusajja agambe tukabale awo nja kukugamba nti oli musajja.
I could give you I could give you a summary, Honorable Awich and Mr. Joseph Ochieno. Professor is a good Luganda speaker, so Muganda will say he's a Muganda Musajja wa Kabaka, but nonetheless both of you are also Musajja wa Kabaka.
I think I understand Roger's mother to be a Muganda.
Okay.
You know, I know all my hobbies in detail.
Okay, so he says, Sheikh Gugwa, he was in at Africana some time ago towards elections, and the highlights are he was specific to say, EC is ours. We have the guns. How do you dare say that you can take power? You don't mention about who will count the votes. He's a religious leader.
Is he NRM?
1,010%, yes. So I brought this courtesy video to bring out a picture of the religious leaders, that how would the country interpret such a religious leader who literally, whose message is to bury any single hope of democracy, of a free, fair and transparent and credible elections, by saying EC is ours in a context of ours, who? Him and the NRM. He's a strong man in NRM, a good one. So maybe you could give us a highlight of what do you read of such religious leaders?
Oh, me?
Definitely, yes, sir.
Well, the first of us
Okay.
he reacts.
Yeah, sure.
Because he has to defend the government. First, let me start with this reaction. This same, you see how unfair the government is. He speaks provocatively in support of actually how the process is. One, I give him credit because he was saying the truth. As a religious leader, the first thing how he said it, that you guys are wasting time, that will be, you will vote, but first will be counting and actually manipulating. He said everything right as a religious leader. But unfortunately, those are the people I was telling you, he was let to go. Then the other Catholic leader who said just in favor, maybe, I don't know, or even neutral, in support of the NUP, was arrested. So these religious leaders have been corrupted, manipulated, that you can only speak in favor of the sitting government. You cannot say anything. If you speak contrary, then you, even if it is neutral, even if you, then that's where the sin is. And they've decided not to listen to their God they serve, and they are listening to the God on earth here, the regime, where they are getting they know where their bread is buttered. So that is a compromising position of religious leaders. Like, even his message was amplified, and people like Comrade Awich and the president would have rebuked such I could call him a thug. He's not even a religious leader.
Okay,
But none, he's ready to go. And then the other religious leader who even speak maybe neutral or in support of the other side are taken as bandits. So that's the unfairness of the religion.
You want to say something?
Let the Congress to say.
Hey, it's very rare. Giving out your time to...
It's not his time.
No, I don't know, I meant, because you see, we wanted to begin with him, but nonetheless proceed. He's given, yeah.
NRM are Democrats.
No, I think if I had my way,
yeah,
I would not enter that man's mosque. Because what that guy is doing is actually nationally criminal. And I'm actually very surprised that Mr. Museveni will support that. Including from his in quote his own lying, his lying historical thing.
Team to provide us with the info. He should be appointed as an ambassador, some representative somewhere.
Yeah, but that's my point. Look, from where Museveni came from, the language he spoke before coming to power, and it's still coming to power, and with all the madness and the theft and the bribery and the whatever kind of stuff, and all the discrimination that they do, yeah, this is too apparently chauvinist. That a religious leader comes and uses his power and name, you know, to preach something so partisan like that. However, that said, I know religious leaders who NRA. By the way, some of them are very irritatingly NRA. Some of those I know around me, by the way, you know. But when they go to the pulpits, they try, you know, to play their role as religious leaders, as it should be. And indeed, as Roger says, they will be religious leaders who support other political parties and organizations, you know, and they should be able to try. But I think at the heart of this conversation, religious leaders taking a position on apparent injustice, like kidnap of Kizza Besigye, like torture of civilians, like arrest and detention beyond reasonable times, and the kind of thing that go through people like my friend Sarah Birete, imposing charges that are unreasonable and undue, you know, basic refusal to deny people bail within reason, things like that, you know. Religious leaders should come and say, this is wrong, you know. And amazingly, I told you that I was working on some profile-related stuff on my historical experiences elsewhere. And some of my life's experiences, Comrade Rich knows, you know, in many other countries around the world. You know, I
have just this info for avoidance of doubt, that Sheikh Gugwa is the Uganda's ambassador in Saudi Arabia.
There you go. There. He's doing his money thing.
So, Honorable Awich was doubting whether he's NRM. He's your ambassador in Saudi Arabia.
So you really realize that...
NRM ambassador.
Okay. So this guy
I'm coming back to...
should go out of their way to try to play balance.
Okay.
And that's what really is what we are saying.
Mr. Awich. Now, sorry, Mr. Joseph Ochieno. Honorable Awich, now let me have this question simplified. How best do you think such religious leaders can play their religious role, without necessarily being partisan, but ensuring that they speak truth to power? Because sadly, you may not have picked the entire message that he has in Uganda. Yeah, sure. But to be honest, like Professor said and Mr. Joseph Ochieno said, it was kind of provocative, very annoying to people that he was addressing. How dare one say, we have the guns, we count the votes. So how can we have religious, drawing a line? They play their role.
Now, first of all, I was thinking, I'm a Catholic, but I'm not a religious leader. So I was wondering whether this man is not a Muslim, but not a religious leader. Who is a sheikh?
Don't sound philosophical.
Who is a sheikh?
Sheikh is a religious leader.
Oh, okay, who is Ajat? I think
Ajat is just someone who goes to...
Can I really develop my point?
Yeah,
I want to say, I was thinking that this guy is a Muslim, but not a religious leader. Just like I am a Catholic, I am baptized, I am confirmed by the bishop, but I'm not a religious leader. So if I spoke somewhere, somebody should not mistake me for being a religious leader. I am a Catholic, I am a Christian. So I'm not sure whether this man is a religious leader. if my thinking of a religious leader is somebody who owns a mosque, or a religious leader is somebody who owns a
Who
church,
lives, yeah.
who in our language said somebody who has a flock, he looks after, he has his sheep. Okay, at a parish level. So I don't know whether this man is a religious leader or not. Otherwise, if he is not, then we are blaming religious leaders for a mere Muslim, but not a religious leader. Okay?
But you should have, in any case, should have brought Mujingo because he says similar things.
Yeah.
Now let's assume he is a religious leader, not a mere Muslim. Let's assume he's a religious leader. Let's assume now that he's even an ambassador.
He is not even an
I
ambassador.
really want to disassociate myself from what he's saying. That is not the thinking in Plot 10. And that is not even the thinking in State House. It is his own things.
He should be arrested.
And this is the overzealous cadres that bring us problems.
Yeah.
Because if I know the way I worked in this campaign, and if I had at the back of my mind what this man is saying, I would have slept. I can assure you. Listen, Norman.
Yeah, sure.
I am the first person to conduct this campaign.
Yeah.
Why? Yeah. Because we had zoned ourselves as directors. I was given Lango. President Museveni simply launched a campaign in Luero. Not started a campaign. They did not campaign.
He went to
that is why he came back to Nakaseke later. So when he launched in Luero, the first campaign was in Amolata. I had gone to collect 12 people per district in all the 10 districts, entry point. I went to specific Amolata, that is Kyoga, across Lake Victoria, Lake Kyoga. I took money for the district organizers. I had a meeting with the district. I took posters, paint all over the district, pick lorries for public address system to move all over. Went to the radio station, talked till morning, and then the following morning people came. I could go like Yam, it rained, my vehicle got stuck, pushed it up to morning. Now, if I sat and knew that this is what this guy was, I wouldn't have been suffering in the rain. Suffering in the rain for what? When this man, if this is a position.
It was sure
So,
win.
this is this man's position. For us, we are Democrats. During campaign, we are equal. We are equal to NUP. We are equal to DP.
Yes.
We are equal to any political party that
You're
fielded their
disowning
candidate.
your ambassador, Honorable Awich. But let me
To this extent,
yeah, let me read you this.
So, so for that extent, I want to make it clear that we don't own the Electoral Commission. Electoral Commission is an independent body. The party doesn't own the gun. The gun is an army national institution. It is a national institution. So for us, we are real actors, participants who persuade the people to vote for us.
Okay.
And we count the votes. So ignore his statement.
It has already passed now. It is overtaken by events because everything that he mentioned
has come to pass.
Like Anita would say, yeah?
Okay, this is yeah. By the way, yeah, she also once said you have the magic, but this is it. Sorry, Sheikh Sulaiman Lubega Gugwa is a prominent Muslim cleric, diplomat, and a public commentator. He is widely known for the active involvement in both religious and political spheres in Uganda. Diplomacy, he served as Uganda's ambassador to Saudi Arabia, but also he is a senior cleric within the Uganda Muslim community, frequently leading prayers and officiating at significant cultural religious events. It is of course to say that he is not just a Muslim. Like
So can he marry people?
Can he?
Can he do wedding for Muslim people?
He does.
He does
It's
wedding.
Sheikh. You know, a Sheikh.
Anyway,
Yeah,
whatever the Sheikh said,
so yeah, whatever the case.
colleagues, whatever the Sheikh said, I want to make it clear that President Museveni is a Democrat. We went in this election with President Museveni as a duly nominated candidate like anybody else. We have no influence over Election Commission. We have no influence over whatever they
You have no guns there for all
we
of us.
did explain, and that's why you'd see President Museveni struggling to explain, even on the screen, teaching people what he has achieved and making promises and asking votes and votes are counted by an independent body called Election Commission, not owned by Plot 10, not owned by State House. So Museveni is a Democrat, and that is the line we pursue.
Okay. Thank you, Honorable Awich Pollar. We cross to the congressman. You have had, I think let's address the same question. Do you think it is possible for religious leaders speaking truth to power without, in courts, showing the exact side they support? Like in reference to what the gentleman has said.
Yeah, it is. And as I said, partly because of time, and let me just go straight to it, because it's an obvious thing, and we've said it already, number one. But also number two, there is nothing wrong with the religious leader even being partisan. No, there's nothing wrong with it, because these guys vote.
Yeah.
And I don't think it possibly would even matter to me, just like Comrade Awich, I'm a Catholic. You know, and put a disclaimer because I'm going to discuss it. You know, we know, I know my various religious leaders up to bishops, and I know some of their leanings, by the way, without prejudice, you know, and that's absolutely okay. The issue is when you are holding the responsibility of the flock, what do you do? By the way, one of the things about which I've been campaigning for a long time, for which Milton Obote was an excellent president, was the president of the Republic of Uganda as the head of the country. You win elections, you may have been voted by, say, 30% of the population, or maybe have a 40% support in the country, but you govern for everybody, like prefects and everywhere else. So what language do national leaders do? And that's why I always challenge, from which I'm sure your leader this time is going to try to make sure that he speaks like a statesman, the policy of them versus us. Milton Obote rarely did that, never did that actually as president, except in campaigns. You know, the them versus us kind of stuff. You govern for everybody. So we know you're a president, maybe of, your background is DP, and you govern for the country. You said, our people, you know? You don't say them versus them. Those who voted badly, they'll never get this kind of stuff. So it's okay. That said, historically in this country, we had religious leaders taking sides. We've debated, and I think let's leave Archbishop Luwumu on whether or not he was involved in activities against Idi Amin, and Comrade Rich was absolutely right. But even in the unlikely event that he was, that ideally ought to have been tried and subject to due process. And number two, particularly because the Archbishop of a very politicized church, the Anglican Church is the most politicized church in Uganda, and I'm just saying this for historians, you know, and it's not a bad thing. In any case, it's derived from the Church of England, which is a very, very political church from the breakup of the Catholic Church. It's not a problem. I think a responsible president, a president of Ochieno, would find it very difficult not to maybe house arrest, forgive, and things like that, expose him to the world and trying to check him. You don't necessarily have to kill the guy, even if he did that. And that's basically the message. My Catholic Church officially supported the overthrow of the UPC government. It is on record that the late Bishop Kihangire, of that of Gulu, was the link man with Basilio Okello, you know, to agree on behalf of DP, NRA, we could effectively have other opponents of UPC in this country and foreign forces to overthrow the government. And so it did happen. So that happens. Now, that is wrong. I'm not quite sure how much you do, because I don't know how many people died as a result of the overthrow, and don't know how many people died between that overthrow and then their friends NRA taking over. And I don't know how many people died since then to today, including those who died in northern Uganda and whatever the case. So blood is really in the hands of those religious leaders, arguably. But in the early 80s, again for the record, Rogers, you need to check this in terms of detail. Guns were once upon a time found in churches, including relating in Rubaga, whether or not it was done with the knowledge of the church or not. I'm trying to be very diplomatic and reasonable about it. You know, yes. But how did the government respond? This is important.
So the question is on how they responded to such, rather than extrajudicial killings.
Precisely. Finally, my own cousin, I think, let me say this, Comrade Awich, the first time when the NRA guys invaded a church away from Idi Amin was actually against my own cousin, Tedo Dongoduka, in a church in Luala in now Kaberamairo district. The service was on. This is 1980, late 86, early 87, I think. That's how Teddy, escaped to Kenya and is in exile in UK until today. Actually, the then MP for Amolata and Deputy Minister for Health. So these NRA guys have done some very strange things. It was found completely unacceptable that soldiers would go into a church, or in this case to a mosque, the place of worship. It's tricky, but these guys have done it. Now, the time, was it a church, or simply because Teddy was a Catholic and this is a local mission and she was home and, so some of these things are neither here nor there. To date, there are many religious leaders I know, Catholic religious leaders, who are active supporters of NRA. I know them. I know them, and sometimes I feel, whatever. I also know sometimes when today, some religious leaders, including my Catholic religious leaders, act in a very apparent way, I'm saying this very deliberately, apparent way, to favor NRA-leaning people, and maybe to look at people who are not NRA in a certain way. I see it because I'm an experienced person. I know Anglican leaders, who do the same. I have been in campaigns that some of which are for my books in future, bishops and non-bishops of all churches, their roles in polity. How do you strike the balance? What is it that you do that your actions may cause a death? Your action may cause a suffering. And your action may just basically be to lobby to expose injustice, to simply say that, guys, let's balance. And your actions may push people like me. You know that I'm the first person to have officially called for a National Truth and Reconciliation Commission as I returned in 2005. But that was officially as myself, but officially with my president in Zambia. It was not accidental. It is simply that we need to deal with this thing, consider the topic. We need to reach a stage where, as a country, we have a national conversation. We heal, we forgive, and reach a stage in which maybe we make life less difficult for religious leaders, so that they do their flock works and people do politics, and then we are not able to put these guys in particular corners. But any religious leader who uses the privilege of their faith to play partisan politics on the citizens of Ugandans, I think Archbishop Luwumu's spirit will think carefully about them, and may they actually examine their conscience. But with the extremes going on today, it is wrong for religious leaders to look aside. And in any case, like Comrade Awich once in a while does, that look, like he's just said it now, that look, that sheikh,
disowning,
I disown that.
Okay.
So there's no reason why religious leaders don't come to the pulpit and simply say, no, we don't agree with you on this. Even if you have got a Land Cruiser from the state, and even if you got a few millions through the back door, whatever, and you're a bishop, whatever kind of stuff, you should still tell the other president.
But he who pays the
Sebo.
piper. Let's see. Thank you, Mr. Joseph Ochieno. Let me cross to Professor Rogers Barigayomwe. If you had an opportunity, not a Sunday definitely, to be in a boardroom with the Interreligious Council, please address them.
One, the radical ones, I will talk. By the way, the Catholic Church has tried to be conservative, and after the troubles, I think, of the last Archbishop of the Catholic, Chizito, I think this one is trying to play a neutral ground, and he hasn't helped much because of the fear. And I know the religious leaders should be reading the holy books which say, do not fear. I don't know why they fear more and run away. But the other side of the religious leaders who are Protestants and Pentecostal, for the preservation of their message, and many of the Pentecostals, I hear them because I associate with them, they talk about that it is President Museveni who has given us freedom of worship. NRM, Mbu. Then is as if because of that, they don't see anything else bad. But let me tell them, why that respect came is because of respected people like Festus Chivenjere, Bishop Festus Chivenjere, who they've forgotten. He was both anchored in the Protestant church and a revivalist. These people talked truth to power. That at one time Festus Chivenjere even ran out of the country, running from presidents. Then these cowards here who are now like, hey, they are fearing government. They should say the truth, and it is what preserves. Because what the religious leaders, you say, if I was speaking to them, preserve the truth. They should be like they should be seen to be preserving the truth, and they should be truthful to all sides, and they know what happened. They should go in black ink and tell the president what happened truthfully. The way I would be very disappointed for Europeans like EU to give a detail of what happened to Uganda. And then the religious leaders cannot write a document and say, according to us, this is our document, this is what happened. Whether you won fairly or unfair, let them document it and put all their names and they sign. Then they see if Ugandans will attend their churches again. Because we know the truth. If they are manipulating us, then we will not attend their churches again. So let them be truthful. We don't want these things to come from, is it European Union? Because the NRM government has been using this excuse. We are getting interference from outside. Because of the gap created by religious leaders. Then, by the way, to the credit of the UPC government, it is with the time that I've come to appreciate the UPC government. Because I'll be clear that my father, who was UPM and a rebel, stayed here and worked. If it happened in their government, this one, you cannot stay. They knew these guys, like you said. They knew the Bidandi Saris, but because these guys had common sense, they knew maybe, I think Obote was a very decent man. How could he have let Museveni in his speech when he's campaigning say that we will go? Who could say that here? And you continue with a campaign? Obote could have been a decent man.
He was.
I think we have very indecent people here. And history is going to judge you because we are professors, we write books, we write everything, and you cannot run away from it. So act justly, and also I'm cautioning the religious leaders to preserve the name of God, the truth, and the Bible without manipulation, and say the truth.
I will give you an extra minute to make your closing remarks, but also in reference to what Mr. Joseph Ochieno mentioned earlier in terms of a call for truth and reconciliation, because all of this takes us through the spiritual war, convening, and then like Catholics say, going scenes like, Uganda, when Uganda Catholic would say, and then we reconcile and build the nation. Do you think that is even achievable? It's yours, Professor.
I believe, to me, that is the only way where Uganda has reached, because like I predicted before election, that an election is just wasting time. We would have used that money to now have better roads. That election budget would have made us a railway system here in Uganda, which we don't have. So we don't want to be taken back to those circles, with them getting the 80%. And you remember I talked about the Sururu, the president of Tanzania, even copying his name. Even them, they did it here and shamefully cheated and copied their names. We don't want those things. Now we are looking to religious leaders.
Okay.
Put this house in order. Let them champion the dialogue. And we still have some hope in them. And God has pressed that onto them, that they are the salt. Let them use that chance. If they fail, then they will be judged.
Okay. Thank you, Professor. Coming back to Honorable Awich Pollar, you have, I think we could use 3 also means to, first of all, in his submission, it is as if he seems to suggest that the current, most of the religious leaders are rather compromised. What is your take? You think they are, in fact, do you think you have compromised them, or they are operating under fear, or that is them?
First of all, the congressman here said, he mentioned something like now it is under extreme situation. Oh, there's nothing extreme at the moment. During the campaign, we had situations where NUP alternation with the police or even with the military. We have had claims of arrest. An arrest is normal. Even we have had many claims of here and there, but that does not amount to extreme. I wanted to differentiate between extreme is in a situation like there are mean days where either others are arrested, put on firing squad, or you wake up in the morning, you find 10 dead bodies in the Namambe forest. Or you wake up, you find 20 dead bodies flowing on river. That is extreme. So there's nothing extreme. The rule of law is there. People are being arrested, taken to court, although there's a delay here and there, and I think we should cure that. So there's nothing extreme. Now, about whether the religious leaders are doing the right thing. The point here, and I'd mentioned, I want to make it clear, is that the visibility and the aggressiveness or the in-depth of religious leaders' criticisms on government depends also on the violations that the government is making. Therefore, if you have situations where government are doing things which are in tandem with the law, the religious leaders will be quiet. And therefore, you're not going to force religious leaders. You talk. So you judge from there that if somebody is seeing religious leaders as not talking enough, it's because the injustices are also not much enough. So religious leaders, I know they have been talking, but the degree of their slowness is proportional to
the injustices.
Because they are not going to manufacture injustice and talk about it. You want religious leaders to go and manufacture injustice and talk about it. So in fact, for me, the way religious leaders are quiet, I use it like
evidence.
Everything is okay.
Yes, also like songs. You know, sometimes I like saying songs are a reflection of society, and it becomes like a subconscious feeling. It's like a dream. People start singing about it. Sometimes songs are not so direct, but if you examine it deeply, it explains, it analyzes the subconsciousness of people. So the religious leaders are the same. So if you are saying, and my two colleagues are saying they are not doing enough, it's because there is also, government is also not doing enough injustice. So they're not going to manufacture it. So their comments. So my closing remark is, today we are remembering Jonan Luwumu for the killing that occurred to him and the presumption that he was outspoken against injustice. Therefore, we don't want, there's no room for injustice. And in our manifesto, we have a big component on governance about injustice. So nobody should have injustice. And we want under NRM a government of justice, where every Ugandan enjoys his rights and is free. And therefore, religious leaders, as their role is in the Bible, they should talk fairly enough, not to be seen to be associating with a particular party, but talk their mind, and we shall give due weight to what they say.
Okay, thank you, Honorable. Kindly, if I pray that you use your, a minute.
Yeah.
The closing remarks, and then we shall leave here.
There's no reason why you should give him 3 and you give me 1. You know.
He's in power.
No.
I took one.
On a serious note, on a serious note, there is no reason why. You know, we share equal part. So, number 1, and number 2, I'm quite experienced on this thing, so I know how to manage time, and time is coming to an end. Yeah, but look, there are religious leaders, there are priests from across the various faith groups who try and who do very good work. And we must credit them, and I meet them across. And I have 1 or 2 of them who are very close friends of mine. I think These guys just need to up the game. But I'll just conclude in 1 minute with an experience in 1982 when we had an elected government and we had war in Luwero, and the international community was loud. The international community can be very hypocritical, but we're delighted the EU guys are now saying what we told them, what we UPC told them over the years. Milton Obote as president, this is for Comrade Awich, called for a meeting by the Rogers, called for a meeting of all religious leaders, which would be equivalent to Interreligious Council. I think you guys, Interreligious Council, need to know this. President Obote himself called all religious leaders and the political leaders, including Paul Semogere. Of course, the position was small at the time, Paul Semogere, and said that the campaign of so-called rigged elections and whatever was harming the country and was fueling the rebellion and undermining our rehabilitation effort post Idi Amin. And Dr. Obote said that, well, if there are any grievances, this thing should be put on the table. One of which was, obviously, if there was any evidence of rigged elections, they should be prosecuted. And Obote said, it's officially on record, that should Semogere come out with numbers, that's why I was very authentic about it, that show that DP's contested numbers were such that they would have won the elections. Obote said in that meeting that he was willing to resign in 1982, willing to resign and let an interim administration go through these processes so that we settle this country for good. I'm saying that very importantly. In that meeting, I'm told Semogere remained mute. Obote was very strong about it because he told me this again, face to face. He was mute, and Obote was really furious and said, people are dying in Luwero, you know. We are trying to rebuild the country. You're going on with your propaganda and hate politics, you know, when what is at stake is so big. The person who got out to talk, to remove the quiet in the room, was Cardinal Ansubuga at the time, the Catholic Cardinal, who came in to say, okay, we think that we should put this to a stop and move on. And part of that, Obote had invited them to go to the Luwero to see the terror that NRA guys were subject to the people of Luwero Triangle. And apparently, over the 4 years, Semogere did not make those journeys. I'm not mixing many things. That is what happened. So if you can see where leadership, political leadership comes from, it's important that Mr. Museveni provides the leadership, political leadership. But it's also important that religious leaders should come into to participate. And finally, we, the citizenry, should be able to be in such a way that, I take you back, we need a national conversation should that we stop at this boil of a vicious circle going round and round and round. But Luwumu did his bit.
Okay, thank you, gentlemen. My name is Jonan Tumuhimbise. We wish to end here, but also as a take-home to the three of them, but in particular, Honorable Awich Pollar, is to, who knows, to maybe push the message further in regards to reconciliation. If there is a need, in the event that there is, most likely I think it's important that the country talks, like Honorable, like Mr. Awich and Professor Barigayomwe seem to suggest, and so many other voices. Giladile, I think last week also, the President highlighted that he's open to dialogue. We hope, that's what he said. But by God's grace, we may dive deeper into such a topical discussion come next week. From Digital House, catch you some other time. Norman.
The Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.